Today is Monday, February 14th, which means it's not only Valentine's Day, hence the red and white that I'm wearing, but also Council Monday for the city of St. Catharines, which means another council update. So let's dive into the agenda. As always, the agenda is linked in the description down below. So if you want to dive into any of the more details about what I'm talking about, read any of the reports I'm talking about, you can go to that link down below. So first up, there's a program being put forward tonight to help community gardens. It's specifically trying to address some of the challenges that new community gardens have faced. When somebody tries to start a community gardens, they have to deal with getting insurance, they have to deal with how are they going to pay for watering, all these kind of things, and this report is trying to address and help that. So if you're interested in starting a community garden in our city, take a look at this report. If it passes, maybe reach out to staff and see how you can use some of these incentives to help you on that journey of starting a community garden. I know community gardens are so important. As a board member for the organization Links for Greener Learning, Links for Greener Learning, or LGL, has established over 14 community gardens all across the Niagara region. And they're not just great for producing produce, for producing vegetables and food, but it's also about the community aspect. LGL focuses really on newcomers to Canada, so it helps teach them sustainability. LGL has workshops on cooking and all that kind of stuff. So there's so much more that goes along with the community garden aspect. So hopefully this program will help more get started in our city, because that will just help in many ways. So next up on the agenda is the 2022 water and wastewater budget and associated rates. Now I spoke about this in a video 2 weeks ago, so if you want to go into a deep dive, you can check that out. I'll just give you the highlights, which is, I guess, water rates. The proposal is to go up 6% this year, or 5.98%. Most of that is actually wastewater. They want to make the wastewater rate go up over 13%. So yeah, that's a lot. Maybe watch tonight, see what they end up doing. It's a public meeting, so you're also allowed to speak, so watch for that. The next issue is actually a zoning issue. I don't think I've spoken about zoning before on these videos, so I want to take a minute just to break down what that means or how it affects you. The zoning bylaw dictates how you can use certain areas of land, like what uses can go on there. So that means residential, industrial, commercial uses. And each of those are further broken down. Like, so residential is broken down into R1 or R2 or R3 or R4, which really just dictates the type of density. So R1 is suburban, single detached bungalows, low height, whereas R4 are like apartment buildings, or they have unlimited height restriction in R4. So and R2 and R3 are somewhere in the middle. So that's just how kind of the zoning bylaw works. It tells us where we can put stuff in, or where developers can put stuff in the city. So this land in particular, the thing being discussed tonight, is the property at 33 Rockwood Avenue in Meriton Ward, just off Hartsel Road. What's being proposed here is the current land is R2, and that has a maximum height of 10 meters allowed. So in the area surrounding it, it is all R2. It's got some R1 to the right, and it has mostly single detached houses in the area. What's being proposed for this area is a 3-story apartment building, which has a height of 12.8 meters, so just above the R2 rating of 10. And so staff have actually proposed that they change this area to an R3 now to allow for this building, and some other changes as well. If you want to read the report and get into that, setbacks and all that is included. But my kind of concern here is not with the proposed property. I mean, 3 stories is not 5 or 7 or 10 stories. 3 stories is quite reasonable for the area. It's about changing this from an R2 to an R3. Because while this proposal may be okay, a 3-story apartment building, if the zoning is changed to an R3, it actually allows for a 20-meter high building. Now, I'm not saying that's what will go in there. The proposal is pretty clear that it's a 3-story building, but I'd rather keep this at R2 and maybe allow for a little bit of a height overage from the R2 rating, because years from now, when this is if this is torn down or another developer purchases it, they would be able to build a 20-meter high building without ever going to council. And from my experience on council, that's where residents get frustrated when they say, well, there's nothing we can do about this. It's not even coming to council. Residents get concerned. And so, not so much with this proposal, but just the idea of switching this to an R3, I would have some caution in doing that. The comments from the area residents, which are included in the report, do circle around concerns regarding the height, regarding the density, and we'll see how the local area councillors for that ward bring their concerns to council and how that discussion develops. So that will be interesting tonight. Next up is a report on Cannabis Operations, study that was conducted. So this is not to deal with the standalone retail shops that, I mean, seems to be on every corner of St. Catharines nowadays. I think there's more of those than Tim Hortons, but this is actually more about the greenhouses and the industrial building and places that will actually grow cannabis and manufacture it, as opposed to the retail aspect. And for the last couple of years, the city has had an interim control bylaw, which just has put a halt on that as the city studies it. And the study has come back now, and it's proposing a number of restrictions. It's a 117-page report, so if you're really interested, you can dive in. But some of the highlights, they plan to have a minimum separation of 150 meters from between any manufacturing facility or growth facility towards between that and homes or schools or places of worship or playgrounds. 150 meters is about a soccer field and a half, so not that big of a difference, but that's what's being proposed right now. And putting some other restrictions, because there have been other communities who have gone forward with this, had issues with odor and theft and all those kind of things. So there are some safeguards being put in place through this report. We'll see if it passes or if more are added, but something has to be done tonight as the interim control bylaw is up. So next on the agenda is the Port Dalhousie staircases. There's a report coming back. This issue has been up at council for a number of years now. The first motion about this came in July of 2020, so almost a year and a half or 2 years ago. During the shore restoration in Port Dalhousie, some of the staircases had to be taken down or decommissioned or not used, and the councillors for Port Dalhousie have been fighting hard to get them back. You know, public access to the beach, public access to the shore is important. And the motions from them have either been referred or pushed back, or just various things have delayed them. So here we are tonight with a report saying, again, it says that staff continue to look at opportunities to improve public access to Lake Ontario through future capital budgets. So a similar motion has been passed or referred for a couple of years now without ever actually doing anything. And what surprised me the most about this report was it actually recommends, well, I'll read it. It says further that the November 8th, 2021 motion, so that was a motion by Councillor Garcia, which basically said, let's spend some money and fix up these stairways and get the public access back. Again, the staff recommendation is that motion be considered defeated. Now, I've never seen, at least I don't think I've seen, staff saying a councillor's motion should be defeated before. The councillors in Port Dalhousie have been working hard trying to get these stairs back, and staff are saying, let's just consider that defeated and, and not do it. So, again, I think there'll be some interesting conversations tonight. I'm sure the councillors from Port Dalhousie will again be stepping up to fight for these public access to the shoreline, and we'll see what happens. The final thing I want to talk about tonight is another motion by Councillor Garcia, and it's about social procurement. So I don't know all the details around this social procurement motion. It seems to deal with this organization called Buy Social Canada. Reading the preamble written by Councillor Garcia, it talks about shopping local and buy local to assist businesses in their COVID-19 recovery. if that's what this report is about, or this program is about, I think that's a great idea. I'm all about shopping local as much as possible. It just makes sense not only to buy Canadian, but to buy as local as possible, as city budget, the money that is spent by the city, is raised from property taxes from St. Catharines residents. So if we can put that back into the local economy, that's just a benefit and a win for all. Well, that's it for the council agenda tonight. I hope everyone has a wonderful Valentine's Day. Maybe you can snuggle up and watch a council meeting. I'm sure that's a romantic way to spend your night. And have a good night. Bye for now.